Hi, welcome to I think this is the fifth video of the series of developing a complete mobile application from backend to frontend with Golang for the backend and Flutter for the frontend. In the last video, I just developed or implemented all regarding the transport layer of the register endpoint, which is not so much. It was more of these utils that it's something that it will be used for all the endpoints basically. And here the handlers, I created the Auth handler with the register endpoint, which reads the DTO, the register DTO, and calls the service. So right now in this video, I plan the idea is to implement the service and the repository, basically the domain part of this application. So let's continue with that. I already have the domain, so we're gonna focus on the package folder, since here's where all the business logic will be stored. So this is simply just to clarify. As we can see, we have for each domain we'll have a folder inside the package folder, and each one of these subfolders represent some kind of domain, of business domain, which can be separated for I mean, there are business domains that are no codependent between themselves. So as I said in the first video, if you want, you can check out the first video in which I explain a little bit more about the project and about the reason of this series of these YouTube videos. However, what I want to say is that each folder, for instance, the Auth folder, could be escalated into a known microservice. So the idea is that inside each one of these folders is a domain that is completely functional by itself. It doesn't depend on anything else, and it doesn't depend on anything outside. In the idea about a domain-driven design is that, for instance, the transport layer, which is the one that communicates with the business logic, will only communicate through the domain of the application. The domain is the center of the application, is the one that states the behavior of the application, which is the abstraction of the behavior, the interfaces. So in the domain, we'll have the interfaces for the services, and I think that also for the repositories. The idea is that, because this is the thing with Golang. Golang doesn't have like rules. It allows the developer to write the code as we want, to design it as we want. And I was kind of thinking, because if the domain is the point where it's the point that the transport layer communicates with, then it should only expose the service interfaces. However, I also like to have all my implementations regarding services, regarding repositories, to be dependent only on the domain, which is that for instance, if I want to replace a repository for another repository, they both implement the same interface, then I can do it without any problem. I could delete the complete repository file, because all the things in which because I know that there won't be any other file or part of the code that depends on that specific file, because I make sure that all the files or the packages depend only on the domain package, or on the domain of the application. So I tend to also include the interfaces for the repositories in the same domain. However, it's more of a practice in this case of mine, practice of mine, to know that I can call directly, or I can use directly, a repository function from the transport layer, even though I could, because it's part of the domain, and the domain is the point to which I communicate with from the transport layer. However, I know that I can't do that, because the repository should be communicated for any other different than a service. However, I wanted to explain that. I wanted to explain why I'm gonna choose this path, let's say it like that. So let's continue. I have here the app Auth. So as I said, domain out is basically the domain file which states all the abstractions. Also here we'll have the models, because the implementation will also depend on the models or entities of the Auth service. And then inside app out, app is like synonym for the application logic, the business logic. So here will be the services place, and the services shouldn't be depend on interfaces for modularity and solid principles. However, they shouldn't be replaceable or shouldn't used to be replaced, because since they are business logic, it only states like business rules, and then the repository is the one that is the most likely to be replaced, because we can replace to a Postgres, from the Postgres to a MySQL, from relational to document to graph to, I don't know, any other type of database. So that's the thing. So after explaining that part, let's continue with the implementation. So in service, I said that I had this. It's kind of a, let's say, a mock of the function, only to test the endpoint. So right now we're going to change that and put it like it returns. For now, it returns nothing. It returns empty. So what do we have to do? We have to, first of all, let's say, verify the password. So I don't know how strict I want to be with the passwords. I think that for my application, I think that the length will be enough. So let's do that. So let's get the if length from password is. So I'm back. I think that it's obvious that I did. I paused the video for a moment, and now I'm back. So I was left here. I left here when I was checking for the password length. So if password length of password, let's say no, this doesn't return a number. Yeah. If it is less than, let's say, I think 6 is a good number. Yeah, because I mean, this isn't very critical information application, so it's kind of, I don't, let's I'm not gonna exaggerate about the security of the password. I'm looking at how I look in the video, because I have here my second monitor, and it's where I'm checking the recording. Yeah, I kind of dislike my hair. However, let's focus on the development process. So in this case, I'm gonna create here some errors. Let's say var, let's say error insecure password. This is going to be equal to errors.new. The password isn't secure enough. Yeah, everything's fine. So in this case, we'll return empty. Let me check if the string allows nil. I think it doesn't. Oh yeah, it does. Oh no, it doesn't. Yeah, because it's a primitive type. So empty and error insecure password. Now I'm gonna do another verification, and it's regarding the digits, the characters. So nothing some very advanced regarding like if it's the same character, the combination of characters. However, I'm gonna make it so the user has to include at least one digit in the password. However, let me check if that can be done with regular expressions. So is there a way to check, to use like contains strings contains in Golang, but with a regex, to check imported regex? I don't know if I want to. mm, I don't want to import a whole package only for this. So let me see if there's a way to do it without importing any package. I will do it. If not, then I will leave it like this. So is there a way to check if a string contains any number in it? Let me see. But I don't want the regex package. I mean, it depends. If it's from the standard library, is from the std. Oh yeah, it's from the standard library. So I'll use it. Let's just copy this. Must compile match string word contains number. Yeah, this means decimal, obviously. So let me check that contains number. It's equal to regex, so this will be password. And let's import regexp. And yeah, this is a boolean, so it will work just like that. In this case, if it doesn't contain, then we'll also return the same error insecure password. Yeah, I mean, I could simply do something like this. Obviously, the thing about Golang is that it's a very procedural language, which means the idea is to have a process of steps, of clear steps that it may be verbose, but it also helps a lot the readability of the code. So that's why I kind of prefer this way with two different if statements. However, obviously, this also allows provide some performance advantages like short circuiting. Short circuiting, yeah, that's how it's pronounced. And I think that is not very complicated to understand. Yeah, this may seem a little complicated to understand if the developer is not familiar with both the regular expressions and the regex package, because for instance, must compile, let me check what is dot, like, but finding the expression cannot be parsed, simplifies initialization of global holding compiled regular expression. Yeah, I don't it's like compile but panics if the expression cannot be parsed. It simplifies if initially of global variables. Let me check that part because I don't know if that's what I want. Oh yeah, I took the wrong code. Is this one? Password. So match, what does match string do? It's like, yeah, and now I do have to do it in two different if statements. So it will be something like this. Match string reports whether the string S contains any match of the regular expression pattern. More complicated queries need to use compiling the full. Yeah, that's what I want. So let's do if match is a boolean. So if it doesn't match, or if R is different to nil, then we return the error. So that's how we are going. Email is already verified to be a valid email by the validator in validate package. The device and the OS. I think that I don't have to do any verification on those two. So I think that let's call this verifications or business rules. No, verifications. Data verifications. And then after that, we can create the user out. So create user out. And for this one, we need to create our repository. However, that will be, let me check my domain. as I said, I like to have it in my domain, in the same file even, in order to know what I'm able to use and what I'm not able to use. So Auth repository interface. This is what I was talking about previously, that technically if I'm adding the interface of the repository in the domain, then it's like telling the transport layer that he can, or that it can use the repository directly, and that isn't what we want. However, it's an approach, and I like it for the advantages that it provides for me, to me personally. So I will keep it like this, and it will have a first method which will be create user out, and this will get, let me check the database, it gets an email, hash, or provider, or out ID. So let's leave it like that, and so it will be email string. Here is a hash, here is I have to pass it as a hash, not as the how is it said, like the plain password, the plain text. So this is a string. Then I also need the quote provider. I'll do it simply like this, yeah. And I also need the ID. ID will be from UID, and then I need to import the UID package. So I prefer to use UIDs instead of sequential IDs, simply because it's first it allows me to manage the primary keys creation in the service layer. So my service layer, my business layer, is the one responsible to creating the primary keys, and this is pretty helpful because I want to clarify something. I'm a really fan of the databases, and I'm actually a big fan of the transactional databases. I mean, like procedures, functions, etc. However, that's fine with database administration and database management and all that kind of stuff. However, for software development, I always prefer to keep all the logic in the application layer, not in the database layer. And in this case, everything that will be considered as a transaction, a database transaction, I prefer to have it in my business layer. So if I used sequential IDs, I will have to, for instance, if I need to orchestrate different let's say create statements in different database tables, then I will need to create first in one, then that one will need to retrieve, to return the primary key, then with that primary key I create another one. So basically I have to receive the generated primary key from the database. However, using UID, I keep that UID creation at the service layer. And also it also helps because, for instance, if a user does something like this, let's say this is my API, let's say v1, let's say users, and let's say that this is the endpoint to retrieve users information. It's an endpoint that doesn't require any authorization. However, because let's say it fetches the information of the public user. Let's say if you were searching in Instagram, in Facebook, then you don't have to, I think, well, in Facebook you need to be logged in. However, in Instagram also. But I mean, imagine that you don't have to be logged in, so you don't need any type of authorization or token, etc. And you want, and the end user decides to use this endpoint like manually, like in this case, he could do something like this, and then it will receive an random user, but it will receive one, because unless the application has less than 84 users, then there will be an user with the primary key 84. However, with UID, it's impossible to do something like that, to be able to fetch a random object without knowing the primary key, because the possibilities in I mean, I think it's of billions of UIDs, of different UIDs. So it's impossible for one user. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's pretty rare that the user it's able to retrieve a random user, in this case, or product or anything, any resource, by simply using a random primary key. Yeah, that's like the whole idea that I was trying to make. So let's continue. We're going to import the package UID. It's from Google, because as you can see, Google imports this one, but that's not the one that I want to use. Go get, and then here we'll modify this one, and now it works. And so we will receive the ID, the email, and the hash, and this will return an error, and that will be all. So here's some other stuff. We need to create the hash of the password, because that's the one that will be storing in the database. So for that, we're going to use bycrypt, and this has a function that is generated from password, and this receives the password as a rate of bytes, a slice of bytes, and we'll pass it, so it's password, and whatever it receives the cost, and the cost, I think that it was like general password times bycrypt hash for password again cost. If the cost given is less than mean cost, the cost will be set to default cost. Instead, use compare hash. What's the default cost? Default cost is equal to 10. Let me check the max cost, 31. If I'm not wrong, if the cost is higher, then it may take longer, but it will be more secure. Let me confirm that. When hashing passwords with bycrypt in Go, what does the cost mean? Definition, it's the time of, if the number of times that it hashes the password. So with more times, means worse performance but better security. For instance, cost may take approximately 2 to 3 seconds per hash on a typical system, while a lower cost like 10 may yield around 10 hashes. Therefore, may most balance security needs against immediate implementation, including Go package cost default by using developers can customize the value. I think that I'm gonna keep it in 10, because as I said, this is not like a pretty. Let's keep it like default cost. Yeah, and this will return the byte of the hash password, and also an error, I think. Let me confirm that error. Then yeah, so if error it's different to nil, then we'll have to return an error, and that error will be like something like error, let's say hashing password, and that will be, the idea is to not give that much information to the user always. That's like a pretty important rule in RESTful APIs. You have to give information, not simply like internal error. No, you have to give information regarding the issue, but not the specifics of the error. So the specifics of the error are inside here. I don't know if that's it. Imagine that it was an issue with the algorithm, with anything. That doesn't need to be told to the user. The only thing that the user needs to know is that there was an error hashing the password. So that's what we're going to, that's what we are going to be telling. So the password couldn't be hashed. That's, yeah, let's leave it like that. And then we'll return empty and error hashing password. Perfect. Now, if everything went right, then we have the bytes. We also need to create the user, we need to create a new UID, but for that we're going to, first of all, our auth service implementation needs to have a reference to a repository. So let's create auth repo, which will be of type domain auth repository. We'll receive that in our constructor, and then we'll assign it auth repo. It's equal to auth repo, and then here we're going to call that function auth repo, the function create user auth, and then we'll pass first of all uid new, then the email, and then the hash. I'm gonna make this name clearer, which will be like hash bytes. And now, then this will return an error if error is different to nil. Yeah, I kind of dislike this indentation, so I prefer it in two different statements. First, error it's equal. In this case, error already exists, and then if error is different from nil, then we do return the error. Now here I expect that the error is already ready to be sent to the user, because if I receive it from a function that I create, we like create user out, then I suppose that in the implementation of that function I take care of converting that error to a presentation error. Now that's something that I want to clarify. Many times that could be considered bad practice, because the idea is that the domain is completely independent from the transport layer, from the layer that is using it. So if I take care of transforming the errors into transport layer errors, then that wouldn't be fine. That's why the idea is to convert the errors to errors that aren't specific to the let's say to the technical part of the application, but also that aren't related to the transport layer. Because if I only tell the password isn't secure enough, but I am not telling, this information is simply regarding the error, but it doesn't try to talk about what could be happening in the transport layer. I don't know if I'm getting myself understood, but I hope I do. So now the error, if the error is different to nil, then we return the error, and if it's not, then everything went right. Now that isn't enough. We have to create the session, but I leave that in a separate function that I will create later. So now let's concentrate on I'm gonna create it right now, but this will be a private function, and I will create it separated, not here in the code, because I know that it will be reused, for instance, in the login endpoint and in the registering user. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about it. Should I have it here? Yeah, but something regarding the authentication, so I have to have it here. So I'm going to add it to the service, which will be the auth service, and this will be something like create a session. Yeah. Now this will receive the ID of the user, and this will return the refresh token or an error. So let's begin. First of all, here in my domain, I'll have to add here another function, which is create session. And let me check what does this receive. This receives, I'm gonna move this in the second screen in order to check it. So this receives obviously the session ID, which is created from, and I'm gonna change this name, user ID. It receives the UID of the session. It also receives the user ID, which is also an UID. It also receives the token, which is created in my service layer. It also receives the device information, OS string, the expires add information, time.time, and that will be all. Yeah, I think that will be all. And this will return an error. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now here we have to create our token. And for our token, I'm just gonna copy and paste the way I implemented it here in this previous project. I have it in package, in domain, or in application, out service. Let me check, refresh token access, check generate refresh token. Yeah, it's this code. So we have random bytes. What this does is that it creates a new slice of 32 bytes in this case, because that's the length that I want for the refresh token. Then we read into data random numbers basically, and then we encode those random numbers into the base 64, so that we get ASCII characters that are base 64, which basically means that aren't special characters, are characters that can be used perfectly within our URL paths, and there wouldn't be confused with other, let's say, how is it, reserved characters, like for instance the equals, or the, I don't know how is this called, I call it the and, etc. So that's what this does. Then we have the token here, and now we have to call our Auth repo and call create session. For this we're going to pass UID new. We're also going to pass the user ID. We're also going to, here I have to receive also the device string and the OS string, because we're gonna pass that information to token, then a device, then OS, and then expires add. And for the expires add, I'm going to do time dot now dot add time dot, let's say, hour, and let me do the math. So if the user creates the account, I think 1 year, yeah, so it will be 24 365, that will be 86 6. You know what, I think that the best thing I can do is to leave it like, or no, expires at, yeah, which means the user has to refresh the token each year, or not, or shouldn't I use the expiration? Yeah, I think I will, for security purposes. And that will be all. This will return an error. And now let's check if the error is, if error is different to nil, then we'll return the error, the empty strings and the error. However, if there wasn't any error, then we'll return the token and a nil error. I'm gonna add some comments here in order to differentiate the service handlers from the private functions. So here we create the session. Once we create the user out, we create the session, which will be something like this. This gets the refresh token or an error, and it has to be private, so I'm gonna change it to lowercase. And this receives the user ID, which is the, so I have to separate this into user ID is equal to UID new, and then I have, this is what I was talking about. You check that the user ID is created in the service layer, and then I can pass it here. So theoretically, if I wanted to, I could simply call these two functions in two different routines in parallel. However, I won't do that because I need some kind of verification, or that I will only create the session if the user was created. But it's, you can see that in other kind of functions, then it could be could be helpful. I mean, helpful. Device OS, So we get this, and if error is different to nil, we just do a filter of the error, return empty error. And now if everything was good, then we create the refresh the access token. And for this, I'm gonna use another function. Auth service implement, and this will be create a access token. This will receive the user ID. I'm thinking something right now because thinking in the future, because in the future I want to be able to, if the user has an I'm thinking I'm gonna do it like this: UID couple ID UID. This is thinking in the future. Right now this will be empty, but in the future it will be helpful because I want this value to be in my access token in order to avoid to add it into the database each time. And I also receive, no, that's all. This returns a string or error. Now what it does is that I have to import the JWT package for this one. Let me check here, JWT. Let me copy this and go get, let me check. JWT. This is, I need some custom claims. Some custom claims. I need them. So type access claims struct. This will have register claims, and we'll also have a user ID, which is of type UID, and a couple ID, which is of type UID. Then JWT claims, what's the function that I'm looking for? New with claims. I think it's this one. claims. You know what? I'm gonna check also how I did it in my previous project. Here I have the refresh token, the access token, custom claims, register claims. You know what? Let me move this into my second screen. I'll be checking that. Okay, it's new with claims. Let's add the algorithms. Will be HS to 56 to 56. No, signing to 56, HS to 56. And then we have the custom claims, and the custom claims will be this one. So claims, it's equal to access claims. Yeah. I think that I need to move this one into the domain, because I may use it in the transport layer. So I'll move it right here. Could not import, it's B5, I think. Yeah. So this will change into domain.auth, couple ID, and then register claims will be equals to EWT register claims, and then expires at will be equal to, and this is the kind of format that they expect. Numeric date time.now plus time.second. Time, yeah, there's a parenthesis missing. Access token live, and that's some variable that I want to receive in my service. Access token live, this will be equal to int. It's the seconds, so that I need this access token live, and I want it to be something like 12 hours. No, 1 hour, which will be, if I'm not wrong, 3,600. Then this should be working. Access token live, it does have the it has to be int 64. Okay, and now it's working. So I need to receive this one. This is a 64, and for this I need to go to my config. Let's do some changes there, and I need another type, which will be out config struct, and it will receive access token live. This will be an int64, and then here we have access out config will be of type out config, a pointer to it, and then here we have out config, it's equal to from new out config. This will be equals to return a pointer of out config, yeah, this returns Auth config, and then this will be the call to this function call, and this will have access token live, which will have another function here, which is from get emp as int 64, emp here string, and full case it's int 64, int 64. If ball equals always get emp you know what, let's do something like get emp this one, so this will be like a string parsed. Let's do it something like this. Then here I will get 64. This will be the environment variable name, which will be this one, and in case it doesn't work, then this one, then the onParse. Here I'm reusing this function in order to get the variable as a string, and then I'm gonna parse it as int. And for this, I'm gonna check if onParsed is equals to this, then return full case, and then we're gonna do strings dot parse, no, it's strcomp dot parse parse int. This is what I want. Then the onParsed, the base is base 64, the I mean the base is 10, it's decimal, and the bit size is the one that it's 64, I think. Yeah, and 10 is for the decimal, not oct or hexa, and this will return an int or an error. So let's get if num error it's equal to this, if error is different to nil, then we'll return, no, it's if it's equal to nil, then we'll return the number. If not, then return full case. Yeah, perfect. Now let's return right here. So we have it. So the new with claims. Where was I? The claims, I need to add the claims that we're going to be creating, and this will return the token. Now, let me check how to convert from token to string. I'm gonna copy this code. Token string here, it's equal to string, and I need the secret also. DWT secret string. For now, the secret will be simply DWT secret, and then here in config we also need to add that in our Auth config, which will be DWT secret. This will be a string, and here let me, where was I? Here, Auth secret, JWT secret, I mean. It's equal to get emp JWT secret, and the default keys will be secret. That's perfect. Now that we have the secret, we have the token string and we have the error. So if error is different to nil, then return empty and we'll return a custom error. So error creating session. This is everything we need to know about it, nothing else. There was an error creating the error an error occur creating the JWT token. Yeah. So error JWT token, and in other case, otherwise we'll return the token string and a nil error. Yeah, I think this is all that I need. So then here in my function, in my main function, we're gonna create this one. This receive the couple ID. Let me think. I think you don't want this right now. I only want to use the yeah, I don't want this right now. I will only create the access token when the user has already a couple. So this function is functional. It will be, I will use it in the future. However, I won't create an access token and I won't be returning an access token. And for instance, let me explain here. What these two will do is that they will create a refresh token. This endpoint will only ask for the refresh token, not the access token, with the refresh token. And everything in these two endpoints or in these two screens will depend only on the refresh token, which is the token of the session itself. Once the user creates or generates a couple and it's connected to his couple, and then here there are all the main functionalities of the application, the games, etc. Then here I'll add the couple ID, well, the access token, and the couple ID will be in the access token. But here I won't use that. So let me change here. Why everything is an error? Oh yeah, because I changed here. So let me move to my domain and remove the access token because I won't be using it right now. And I also need to move to my transport layer and change it because I won't be returning an access token right here, only a refresh token. And register, and I won't be receiving an access token. Here we can delete this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Obviously the idea is to design before writing code. However, this is a personal project and I kind of prefer it this way to figure it out throughout the process. So in this case, with the refresh token will be enough. And then we can, at this point, return refresh token. In this case, I could even just do this. Or even better, I could simply do this. I don't know if it's pretty really readable. Yeah, it is. And that will be the function, I think, and register user. So the the user creates the user out, which let me check in the database. Basically, what we are doing is that we first create this one, and then we create the session, and we associate that session to the user ID, to the user out. And yeah, that will be what I want, I think. So before finishing this video, let me simply come back here and change my dependency injection. This is how I said that I like to manage dependency injection, is manually. Basically, if there's an error, I will get notified because I have a compile time error, and then I come here and I solve the error. In this case, the new Auth service receive an repository and some configuration and variables. So first of all, I'm gonna do the same that I did for service, and it's to create my repository, repo out, and let's create repository.go package repo out, and then we're going to have type out repository out Postgres repo of type struct. Well, it's a struct of type out Postgres repo. This will receive a DB. It will be receiving a DB, but for now, since I only want to connect the dependencies but I won't be implementing this right now, I will leave it like this, and this function, this constructor, new, this returns a domain out repository, return out repo. For now, this is all, and then I need to implement the methods error out Postgres repo, and the function is this one, this two one. Return nil, return nil. Yeah, this is everything that I want. Everything is working fine. This is from Google, and here we're gonna create those repositories out repository. This will be repo out of type new, and then I paste it here, and here I also need some variables, which is the access token live. And for that I need to access the config file, and this is the path, the config struct, and we access the embed out config struct, which has the actual value. And for now, that will be all. At this moment, that endpoint should be, it doesn't do anything in any database because there's no database. However, since the implementation return nil, they are meaning that everything is doing fine. So I should get the refresh token. So let's check if it's working. So let's run the application, and now let's test it. Here, let's do it. The password isn't secure enough. There's no password actually, because as I said, it can be null, it can be empty, because I'm using Auth 2. However, I have to check how I will manage that in the future. Invalid body. Why is it invalid? Because a comma is missing, and then I get the refresh token, like if everything was working perfect. So here I have it, and that will be everything for this video. So what I did in this video basically was to finish the the service function for registering the user, and in the next video I will be implementing the repository. And I think that will be all. I have a little bit of doubts because of the way I'm gonna handle the registration with Auth. However, I'm gonna leave that issue to the future me. Yeah, that will be everything for this video.